up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are back with another episode of Lions Latest, where we go through the latest Detroit Lions news. And today, we have another re-signing to discuss for the Lions as we get into free agency talk. The Lions have brought back another player. Plus, we're going to take a look at that Jason Cabinda contract and the fine details of the contract that he got with the Detroit Lions. Plus, transition tags, franchise tags. That starts today. Will the Lions be involved? And Aubrey Pleasant, it looks like he's staying in Detroit. So let's get it started.
The city's been down and it found a way to get up. And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off, all right? And we're going to stand up. And then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. We're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
Welcome in, everybody, to another video. Glad you guys are here, and today we are back with some Lions news. I love doing the Lions latest episodes, and expect more of these very soon as we continue to get into the free agency period, as Brad Holmes put it, the player acquisition phase. So expect more videos like this where we're talking about additions and cuts and things like that going forward. This is one of the most exciting stages because you're talking about what your team is looking like going forward. I am working on a mock offseason. It may be our last mock offseason before, free agency hits. So we'll take a look at that a little bit later. I was working on that for the last couple of days. But before that, today we got to talk about this re-signing that the Lions made. So let's start there. The Detroit Lions have announced that they are re-signing linebacker Josh Woods on a 1-year deal. Now, just like the Jason Cabinda deal, we do not have the details of this as of this recording. So as of right now, I don't know exactly how much he's getting paid. Last year, he was brought in from the Chicago Bears practice squad, and he was on a 1-year, $850,000 deal, which means that I would bet his new contract is probably pretty similar. It's probably in a pretty similar price range. Sure, it's probably not super expensive. I would project it to go up a little bit, maybe a little bit over $1 million for the 2021 season. That's probably what his contract is going to fall into. So let's talk about Josh Woods a little bit, okay? Why are the Lions re-signing Josh Woods? Who is Josh Woods? Well, he kind of did go a little bit under the radar last year because he was mainly a special teams player for the Lions when he was brought in from Chicago, but he was one of the best special teams players that we had last season. And this has been a really good part of the Detroit Lions for years, is what they've been able to do on special teams. We've had some really nice special teams players over the years. I mean, you could just go through the list of names from Don Carey to Jalen Reese-Maybin and now a Josh Woods. And as soon as he was brought in and started helping us on special teams, where he played 174 snaps, 57% of snaps on special teams for the Lions this past year, he played well, made some big plays, and that's where he really stood out. The Lions brought in Josh Woods. It did make a lot of sense because it was when Jamie Collins was on his way out. So the Lions were going to be asking guys like Jalen Reese-Maybin, who was mainly our special teams, ace, to be playing more defensively. So Josh Woods was able to kind of come in and fill out that role. Plus, he was with Mark DeLone back in Chicago when he went from safety to linebacker, bulked up, and he ended up making the 53-man roster with Mark DeLone there. So there was a lot of connections to bring him in. Made a ton of sense. He helped us on special teams because we knew we were going to have to give guys like Jalen more opportunities defensively because we were moving on from Jamie Collins. However, he did get an opportunity defensively, and a lot of that had to do with injuries, but also the COVID list, and we had a lot of players that were out, and it was the Denver Broncos game where he got his first career start defensively. And in that game, he racked up 13 total tackles, a couple of tackles for loss. He also had a quarterback hit in that game. That was his first career start defensively, and he was super excited because he kind of felt like he's been in that box of just, well, you're a special teams player. But now we had an opportunity to get a shot to play defensively. And I'm going to be honest, I watched some of it back today because it's been a minute since, remembering us playing the Broncos and how that game went. And it wasn't perfect. Like Dan Campbell said after the game, he didn't think it was perfect, but he did feel like he represented the Lions well. He actually took over the green dot in that game, which meant he was making the calls defensively. Because if you remember, Alex Anzalone went down in that game. Now, what was so impressive about this is that Derek Barnes was healthy. The Lions had Josh Woods and Alex Anzalone starting at the game. Alex goes down with an injury. He takes over the green dot. Derek Barnes slides in. We also saw a little bit of Anthony Pittman in that game. But this was an opportunity for him to really show what he could do defensively. And this could be a big reason Lions brought him back. And after watching it back, you definitely saw early in the game, there was some confusion there on where he was supposed to be. Should me and this linebacker switch? There was some confusion of where exactly to be. You saw it on some coverage situations. He'd be covering the same guy as someone else, and it was like, okay, that's not supposed to be that way. You got to believe that's not supposed to be the case. However, he did settle in, and you saw some of the things that he could bring to the table. First off, the tackling ability, which is what he did on special teams, so it makes sense. Very comfortable as a tackler. Moved pretty well from side to side. He had some good lateral movement, and at the same time, he was absolutely fearless in watching him back, okay? Shooting gaps, working downhill. It's something that Dan Campbell expected him to play with. He expected him to play with that kind of aggressiveness defensively, but you definitely saw, and it led to a couple of tackles behind the line of scrimmage. And he just looked very comfortable as a run defender, and that's where he's actually graded out his best over this past season. Now, it didn't seem like they gave him a ton of coverage reps. I mean, on the season, he allowed 7 completions on 8 targets, according to Pro Football Reference. He didn't seem to get a lot of, coverage snaps. Actually, when Derek Barnes was in there, Barnes was usually the guy dropping, and he was usually the guy blitzing, which seems backwards because, like, wait, hold up, Barnes is probably the better blitzer. Probably the understanding of where I need to be is a spot that needs development, but there's no question that he could compete and possibly try to push for a starting linebacker spot. I mean, when you look at the Lions linebacker position as of right now, who's under contract, it's extremely thin who's under contract. You have Derek Barnes under contract, Curtis Bolton under contract, Devontae Beckett under contract, okay? So when I'm going through those names, brother, who is this? That's who we have under contract, okay? Free agent-wise, Sean Deion Hamilton's an unrestricted free agent. Alex Anzalone's an unrestricted free agent. Jalen Reeves-Maybin's an unrestricted free agent. So at very least, this is depth. It's competition. Again, it's only a 1 year, probably a pretty darn cheap deal. So it's not a lock that he's going to make the team necessarily next year. I do think it's nice that Josh Woods has that safety background, and he looks pretty darn agile. And that's probably an area where they will be able to utilize him more with another offseason of working at that linebacker position in coverage. Coming out of Maryland, being a hybrid linebacker slash safety at his pro day, he ran a 4.66 40. So he's got some pretty nice speed. I mean, he seems like the type of linebacker that the Lions are looking for. So you pair that with the special teams ability, makes a lot of sense why you would bring a guy like this back, at least for another season, on a probably pretty cheap deal. And as we talked about in that Rams video, this is something that they like to do as well, where Brad Holmes came from, is they like to plug holes in free agency, and they love to re-sign their players. Guys that they feel like proved it, earned a contract, those guys get re-signed. And the Lions have now done that with 2 players, and that includes Jason Cabinda. So congratulations, Josh Woods. It's good to have him back. It is. We need this linebacker depth, and at very least, maybe he'll squeak his way onto the team because of what he can do on special teams. But now he's gotten some reps, maybe a little more comfortability if he can practice a little bit more at linebacker, actually playing defensively, because he really hasn't done that in the past. May get better there, and Lions may see something in the young linebacker. He's a super young linebacker. The guy's only 25 years old, so makes a lot of sense to bring him back. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about this Jason Cabinda contract a little bit, because we knew we signed him. We knew we got him on a 2-year deal. We kind of projected that was going to be somewhere around $2 million per season. And in total, it's a 2-year, $4.1 million deal. So we were like kind of right on the money. But there are some specifics to how this deal is going to work out. So for the 2022 season, Jason Cabinda's cap hit, what will count against the cap for the Lions as of now, is $1.53 million, which is pretty nice. I mean, you're thinking you're paying him a little bit over $2 million on average per year. So his cap hit's only $1.5 million. That's pretty nice. It's a nice little setup there for the Lions. And then he also has $1 million in signing bonus, which will go through the years of his contract. He's got 2 years on his contract, so it'll spread evenly through the 2 years on his deal. That's why the dead cap for 2022 would be $2.035 million, because it just adds on to it. So basically what they did here is they kind of locked him in for 2022. If they cut him, they would actually lose money, but they gave themselves a nice little out in 2023 while also pushing his cap number up in 2023, hoping that the cap goes back up and saving them some money for this season. For 2023, he has a $1.9 million salary, so it goes up a little bit. However, none of that is guaranteed. What really matters here is that in 2023, let's say the Lions have him for next year and they want to cut him. I'm not saying they would. I don't know why they would, but let's say after next year they wanted to cut the guy. His dead cap would only be $500K, because that's just the signing bonus. It's spread out evenly through 2 years, so $1 million, 2 years, you split it in half, $500K for each season. So if you cut him after 2022, his dead cap would only be $500K, because none of the rest of it is guaranteed. So it's just, I like looking at how they set up contracts just to see how creative they get. It's like, oh wow, I can see how you got an out in there. You saved money for this year. It's cool to see how they set things like that up. That's the Jason Cabinda details, and we'll know more about the details later on Josh Woods, and we'll take a look at it once we know. However, let's also talk about this franchise tag, transition tag situation. So that opened today. You can now give out franchise tag around the league, and there will probably be a few of these. I mean, even teams in our division, we got to watch, like a Devontae Adams, things like that. I don't think he'll get it, because I think they're going to try to extend him, if anything, and try to move some money back. We'll see. There are a lot of players to watch around the league to know who's going to be available. I look at Jesse Bates. He may end up being tagged. I know they have the money to do it. They were unable to get a contract extension with him done, so maybe he's in that category. But for the Lions, is there anybody that the Lions may tag? I would say no. Most people are predicting no. I would say no. You know, two guys that come to mind are Charles Harris and Tracy Walker, who was brought up last night when we were doing our stream. Look, Charles Harris, since he's playing at the position that he's playing, if you gave him a franchise tag, it's probably going to fall around the ballpark of $17 million for just next year. That would be crazy. That would be absolutely nuts. The Lions would be better off if they wanted to bring back Charles, extending him, possibly putting a little bit more money in the back, but even just extending him, he'd be much cheaper than that. He didn't earn $17 million for one season. So I would say it's very unlikely the Lions do that. And if you give out a franchise tag, you're paying that money for the next season. That's all on the 1 year cap hit. So that would be a massive cap hit to have when the Lions have some money, but they don't have that much money. It's unlikely the Lions give out any kind of franchise tag. Same thing with Tracy Walker at his position. It's likely to fall around $13 million. Seem like the Bengals with $70-80 million of cap space, they could do it. For the Lions, again, it probably doesn't make sense. And if you just extended him, it would probably be cheaper than that for 2021. It'd probably be much cheaper. I mean, counting maybe in half, maybe even less than that. So don't expect the Lions to tag anybody. I know last year was a little bit of conversation with Galladay and Romeo. We didn't end up tagging either of them. Don't expect the Lions to tag either of those players. And those are really the only two that kind of really stick out as, they're tag candidates. You don't want to just tag a player because basically the way they come up with how much a franchise tag is going to cost is it's an average of the top 5 salaries at each position. So the top 5 salaries at the safety position be, you know, the franchise tag amount for that season. So it's going to be high at every position. Some positions are higher than others. I mean, I know Kirk Cousins did that for a couple years. A couple times he got a couple tags, so it made him a ton of money. But for the Lions, there's no one that probably makes sense to give out a tag to. Transition tag is a little bit cheaper because instead of taking the average of the top 5 of that position, they take the average of the top 10 at that position. And basically you get a first right of refusal. So basically they have an opportunity, the player, to go negotiate with their teams. And if another team offers them a contract, it goes back to the original team and they can match that. If they match that, they have to go back to their original team. But still, it's pretty darn high to do that. So I would bet that nothing happens in this stage for the Lions in terms of franchise transition tags. So expect there's probably not going to be a lot of movement there within franchise transition tags. They can still be brought back. I just think it makes more sense to extend them rather than give them a tag. Now, if they don't want to return and they're like, I don't want to come back, and they're like, no, you got to stay here. Here's your tag. I don't think the Lions will do that either. So either way, don't expect tags. And then I want to finish this off with the Aubrey Pleasant situation. So it looks like Aubrey Pleasant's going to stay in Detroit. We've kind of been monitoring this a little bit with the New Orleans Saints. We know that he interviewed for the defensive coordinator position. We thought we were out of the woods. We're like, okay, Aaron Glenn's coming back. We're good to go. But then all of a sudden, here's Aubrey Pleasant coming along, and he wants to interview for the Saints defensive coordinator position. And as I always say, like, I get it. If he gets that job, accept the job, that's probably that's the next step for him. And, you know, he's earned that based on what he's done. But selfishly, I definitely want him to stay in Detroit. And it looks like we're going to have Aaron Glenn back. But now it also looks like Aubrey Pleasant is coming back for next season, which is huge for this defense. Glenn wants to be the best defensive coordinator in Lions history. Aubrey Pleasant is a fantastic defensive backs coach. So it looks like he's coming back as the Saints are looking at promoting from in-house and possibly having a co-coordinator position, not going out of house and hiring a guy like Aubrey Pleasant. So for the Lions, the good news is it looks like he's going to be staying here then at that point, which is very nice. I would like to keep around Aubrey Pleasant. So that is the Lions news. Josh Woods is once again going to be a Detroit Lion for 2022. We took a look at the Cabinda contract. Don't expect to see a lot of tag movement. If something happens, we'll talk about it. I would just be surprised. I'll just be surprised. Mock off season coming soon. Hopefully I get that out today. I'm going to try. I mean, it's probably going to take a minute. I've been working on it for the last few days, but I definitely want to get it out there before we start getting into too far into resignings and things like that, because then at that point, it's just what the Lions do, and then I put it on a piece of paper. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.